At some point, Donnie, you become Baghdad Bob. At some point, people tune you out. At some point, you actually start hurting more than helping, because all of his claims don't scare Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller looks at him and just says what we say. My God, think what this used to be, and now he's just a clown. I'm not saying that. I'm sure that Mueller's team is saying that. But they've got to be looking at this guy going, what has happened to Rudy? He's turned himself into such a clown.
A dangerous clown and a pathetic clown and a piggish clown. In the last 5 days, as Joe, as you hinted, just beyond just even Trump, what has come out of Giuliani's mouth in 5 days is a lie about Kim Jong, as far as him being on his hands and knees. So really putting that summit at risk. Basically, in the most disgusting, vile way, talking about Stormy Daniels, that she doesn't rate as a woman because she chose a certain way to make her living. You know, how dare you, you pathetic, misogynistic, ugly man. Also commenting on her looks. I love Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani, the arbiter of what is physically attractive.
I mean,
when you look at those two men.
Are you kidding me?
You know, I've gone off on the show about Trump's look. Rudy Giuliani is actually difficult to look at. And then finally, his comment about that the president can pardon himself, and even if he's shoots Mueller.
Yeah.
Disgusting, reprehensible. The interesting thing is the reason the CEO obviously doesn't come down on his mouthpiece is because we know the CEO is actually the gold medalist versus the silver medalist at lying. And what's so interesting, you was thinking, you were talking about advertising and PR, that if I was doing ads for Count Chocula, I would have to go through so much more of a intense process of what I can and can't say. Oh, no, you can't say that it's got 9% chocolate if it's only got 8% chocolate, versus on a daily basis, basically, other than what people do on shows like this, that Giuliani and Trump can continue to go out there with actually no accountability. It's stunning. To your point, though, about Mueller, at the end of the day, none of this is going to matter in court. And it is going to matter come this November election, because I do believe, although we see that 40% holding strong, that the American people are going to stand up, and that's when the game is going to change.
So,
and they also lose the Senate.
Yeah, I also think, though, what's incredibly disturbing, and Susan, you worked with him?
Correct.
Okay. Get you and Caddy in here. Is that if a company was negotiating a huge merger with another company, and one of the vice presidents or somebody in the company was like trolling the other company and getting in the way of the negotiations, that person would be fired. The board would step up. Everyone in the company, the CEO itself would get rid of the person who's creating trouble.
Only if that person, the CEO, was upset with what that person was saying. That's the rub here, is that Donald Trump is very happy. I think that...
No, I'm actually making the point, though, that, and I want to hear about what has happened to Rudy Giuliani's personality that makes him capable of being so disgusting and so openly vile and putrid as it pertains to women, with seemingly no care in the world about it, about what he's saying, but also being able to interfere in some of the most critical foreign policy issues of our time and not have President Trump's entire staff of generals, chief of staff, Mike Pompeo, Mattis, Bolton, say, this guy has to go. We can't do our work. This guy has to go. You need to get off your phone. This guy has to go. What is it that President Trump has the ability to protect stupidity in the White House to the point where we become an international joke? And literally the pillars of our country are breaking down because nobody has any right to say anything to this president.
Well, what's amazing is, with everything you highlighted, the thing that probably is upsetting the president, from what I hear the most, is that he got involved in his marriage, that he made the comments about Melania. That's what's really causing a problem within the White House right now with the president specifically.
By the way, Melania Trump pushing back at Rudy saying that she believes her husband. So let's make that clear. We are not sure she believes her husband, not that we to know anything about their
and the
marriage.
fact that she made a statement says a lot, because she doesn't come out like that. And this is not, I'm not making any excuse, but the fact is that the mayor ran the city for 8 years. He's been in his own business. He now...
Was he like that?
No. No, I mean, I would love to see the old Rudy, as I've said before. I don't recognize this person.
What do you make of this change?
But I think that he is used to calling the shots. He likes being in the spotlight again, and he's not used to answering to somebody else. This is what Rudy would do a year ago, 5 years ago. When he would go out there, he would just speak. He's not recognizing that how he's representing not only his client, but the United States. He did this overseas. Let's not forget that. So he needs to realize that there's more of an accountability process here than he's used to. And I think that's a big reason why he's starting to get in trouble now, because he's forgetting that. He's speaking to the president a lot. He feels like he's in, the boys' club, having fun again. This is actually fun for him.
The boys' club.
And that's what well, it is the boys' club, because that's how they act.
Joe?
Yeah, Kathy, there are obviously serious ramifications to what not only the president does, but also what Rudy Giuliani does. Today, the G7 summit meeting, and there is actually talk, and I'm sure a lot of observers would not blame Macron and the rest of the leaders there if they drafted a communique for the G6 and not the G7, because for the first time since these countries and these leaders started getting together, you have one country that is moving in the opposite direction historically as the other six.
Yeah, the summit this time a year ago was not great. The tensions were there in they met, but they did manage, all 7 of them, to come up with a joint communique. Speaking to foreign diplomats going into this summit, they've never known relations between the world's biggest liberal democracies be this bad. And there is a very real prospect that these other 6 members have now decided, particularly the Europeans, look, we've spent a year and a half trying to figure out how to deal with the United States. We feel that we've acquiesced on things. We feel we've tried to play nice with Donald Trump, and time and again we've been rebuffed. We were rebuffed over Paris, we were rebuffed over Iran, we were rebuffed over the embassy moving to Jerusalem, and now we're getting slapped with trade tariffs. And as President Macron of France put it, very clearly yesterday, our soldiers are fighting alongside American soldiers in Syria. They're fighting alongside American soldiers in Iraq. French soldiers and allied soldiers are fighting alongside American soldiers in Africa, trying to wipe out extremism, trying to defend Western democracy at the moment against the onslaught of Islamic extremism. And what does the president do? He slaps his closest allies with tariffs like this and talks about them in a way that we just find unsustainable when he says this is a national security issue. Where's the national security issue? The national security issue is to keep your allies on board so that you can fight threats around the world. That is the issue of national security. It's not slapping tariffs of 25% on imports of steel and aluminium. You talk about those things. You try to negotiate them. And I think, this summit in Quebec is going to be very frosty, and I think you're starting to see Europeans say we have to find a different way to deal with this president.
Yeah, and Willie, we've been talking about what would happen if CEOs had a spokesperson that said intemperate, insulting things about others. The CEO, Mika said, the CEO would call him in and then fire him. And we don't see that happening with the President of the United States here with Rudy Giuliani, but let's take it to the most basic level. And the one thing that I must admit I don't understand with a lot of people who worship Donald Trump and have children. This is a sort of behavior that we would not even tolerate with children. I've seen, there's Little League when we're playing baseball, and you hear all the coaches in the league, if players start shouting at the pitcher while they're in the dugout, the coach will say, hey, look at the batter. Don't attack the pitcher. We teach our children every day to live by certain standards, to be respectful, to work hard. And you've got those examples, whether it's Rudy Giuliani or Donald Trump saying, oh, no, he's not going to study for the most important nuclear summit since 1988. It seems that this administration undermines the most basic values that we try to teach our children when they're 5 and 6 years old.
Well, as you know, Joe, the president's not thinking about values or being a role model. He doesn't have a grand vision of the presidency or the country or history. He's thinking about his own survival. And I'll borrow again the Chris Matthews term, the fog machine. He has Rudy Giuliani out there spraying fog, saying that the president can pardon himself, that this investigation is unconstitutional. Whatever he can put out there to undermine whatever Bob Mueller comes out with, whatever he finds, whenever he does, Donald Trump likes that for his own survival, not for the country.